Yonkers Voice, today is a day that I'm very happy to be sitting here with this beautiful lady, Reverend Emma. I could tell you the story of how Reverend Emma and I crossed paths, but that's something for another day. Reverend, thank you. Okay, it's been a few years since we met.
Yes.
We've been talking on and off. Was it your birthday a few years back, remember?
Celebration of COVID survival.
Exactly. We were
5 years ago.
5 years ago, we were there. Well, I'm happy to see you. I'm happy to see you back in Yonkers. I'm happy that you called me up. And I'm happy to be sitting with you, you know, to talk to the community. Reverend, tell us a little bit about yourself. Reverend Emma.
Reverend Emma, because I've got 1, 2, 3 last names, so I like Reverend Emma. Reverend Emma is a 60-year resident of Yonkers. I came to Yonkers when I was 15. After integrating the first all-white high school in Duplin County, Faison, North Carolina. I was 15 years old. First brown-skinned child to walk through those doors. I got called the N-word so much. I said, well, is it my first name or my last name? And it was overwhelming emotionally. And then when they said that they were going to burn crosses, my grandparents owned a sustainable amount of land, substantial amount of land. And whenever they said, oh, well, you know, they're going to burn a cross, I spoke with my grandparents, and I said, you know, maybe it's time for me to leave, because my mom lived in New York. And I left. I came to Yonkers at 15 years old, still rode in the back of the bus, only to get to Yonkers and find out they had school desegregation problem. I was like, okay. So at 15 was my first interaction with advocating for something other than myself, which was housing. Housing. At 15 years old, we went to the landlord's house with signs because he was not taking care of the building.
Well, back then, the consequences of a rally was much different than now.
Yes.
Even though a lot of things nowadays are very similar.
Yes. But we did that. I'm 15. So then I went to high school, had a child, and that did not leave me, the advocacy. But I felt that I had failed for not staying at that all-white high school, because we had to stay for 1 year. And for years, I felt that I had failed. 30 years later, I had an interview with a gentleman that wrote for the then Herald Statesman, and I spoke out. I shared my experience. And I went back to that same high school to find it completely integrated, more Spanish-speaking Mexican children than when I was there as a first brown-skinned child.
Yeah, more of a mixed ambience.
Absolutely.
Well, I don't know if you failed, Reverend. I wouldn't call it a failure. Sometimes we don't understand our path of life immediately. Maybe your calling was come to Yonkers.
It was come to Yonkers and keep moving.
Keep moving.
And keep moving. And that's what I've done over the years.
And that's how you found out your calling.
Absolutely.
You know,
absolutely.
That was how you found out your calling.
Yeah.
Reverend, let's compare. Now you talk about housing. Every time I have an interview with our elected officials, you know, we talk about housing. We say, yes, I love to see the new housing. I love to see this new housing in Yonkers. We have new places for people in Yonkers. But which people? Who? Okay, because I also talk to the other side of the coin, who tells me, I've been living in Yonkers for 50, 60 years. Generations and generations of my family now have to move away from Yonkers because we can no longer afford Yonkers. Okay, and there is no housing also for people with special needs. They feel like abandoned. So according to you, what do you think about the housing in Yonkers today. What are the things that you see positive, and what are the things that you think need improvement?
All right. What I see positive is that they are building. That is positive. What I see the opposite, the downside of that, is they're building for whom? And for whom is it affordable? All right? They go so much by what the median income is in order to get into this new housing that's being built. However, that median income is not based on people that one parent is working with several dependents. It's not based on the person that is disabled, either mentally, physically, who only gets their SSI or their Social Security. That is not affordable for them. So there's upside. Oh, yes, there's plenty of housing, but who gets into that housing? And in Yonkers, there would be more available, decent housing. And I think one factor is that Yonkers had a wave of co-oping back in the 80s, the early 80s. So many buildings became cooperative, and a lot of them were co-opted on eviction plans. But at 300, where I live, we organized and we went to City Hall because we were going to be homeless because our building converted on eviction. And we went to City Hall and we said, this is what's happening. 25 families are about to be homeless. No building in this city should ever co-op again on an eviction basis. We got that ordinance passed. I'm in my apartment 50 years. I can afford to pay my rent. There are so many people that move from place to place to place because they can't afford the rent. But there is something to be said about being stable, stability, staying there. Because sometimes when you move too often, you miss the opportunities of that longevity, especially if it's a rent-stabilized building, because everything is market. What I think they should do is bring more buildings under rent stabilization. Rent stabilized buildings are buildings built before 1974. They have 6 units. We need to go to the state and say, we need to bring in more buildings built a little after that time, like in the late 60s, 70s, that would afford more people rents that they can manage, and then have the protection of the rent stabilization laws for tenants.
Now, Reverend, now let's talk about people with special needs. We all know somebody. We all might have a family member, a cousin, a brother, a father, a mother that might be in those conditions. And those people might need a little special help. Not just in the sense of being able to get in those buildings, but also in security of those buildings. Okay, make sure that there is no leaks inside. Make sure that the door is secure. Make sure that the landlord maintains the building. And I get lots of calls of people complaining exactly about that. Oh, my building is on rent control. The landlord is his only concern is collecting the rent. Okay, he only concerns it, where is my money at the end of the month? Okay, no concern at all with the quality of life of those people that live inside those buildings. Broken locks, okay, homeless people sleeping on the hallways, people doing drugs on the hallways, okay, and those that live inside feel extremely unsafe.
They're vulnerable.
Exactly, Reverend.
Yes.
Do you know anybody that has faced a situation like that?
I do personally. I can say that
we don't want to bring names.
No,
okay?
but I have family members. I know other people's family members that are experiencing, or one thing, let me just say about a mental illness diagnosis. In our communities, it seems like we kind of downplay that. Oh no, nobody's mentally ill. No. Listen, that is no different than diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol.
It's a medical condition.
It's a medical condition, but too many people are mentally not accepting that this is it's a fact of life. It's a human issue, and whenever you encounter that, and we did, autism is really, really on the rise, and we haven't recognized what it is. ADHD it was on the rise in our communities years ago, and it's just been downplayed. But those children that were diagnosed with that are now young adults, and they have issues. And they were diagnosed with bipolar, with schizophrenia, with one degree of mental illness or the other. And when it gets to the point that the family starts to suffer, because it's just like somebody being incarcerated. The family's incarcerated. When someone has a mental illness diagnosis, the family feels that as well. And we experience that, and my neighbors have experienced that, because we're not giving, first of all, we're not respecting a human being, that they are not like you. They are differently abled. So they end up being medicated. And medication is just suppressing what is happening instead of addressing what is it underlying. Some individuals have neurological developmental disorders, and it gets passed over.
Yeah, they mask.
They mask it.
They don't treat it, they mask it.
And then the individual also will self-medicate, unfortunately, with their own prescriptions, which creates another problem. So, bottom line is, a lot of times, individuals cannot live at home anymore. Where are they going? 1, to the street, 2, to the prison or the jail. But if you can get some kind of intervention, and unfortunately, we don't have a top shelf intervention in our communities. We have the police force. We supposedly have a crisis unit, but try to get them whenever you're in a crisis state. It doesn't always pan out that way. You get 10, 12, 15 police officers that will arrive, but they don't have the proper training.
Well, they're not doctors.
They're not doctors, but there is a procedure that if there's a crisis, you call a crisis unit. They should be on scene. So the individual gets removed from the home. Where do they go, as I said? There are a few agencies that will provide housing. Unfortunately, on the west side, the type of housing that they are provided are in older buildings that are not well maintained, as you said, that are not secure. And and we are experiencing that, the buildings that are not maintained are mostly rent-stabilized buildings. But you see, the individuals that get that housing cannot interface with the landlord or even the superintendent.
What do you mean?
They cannot.
Explain.
Well, if you go through some of the agencies in Yonkers that provide such housing, they pay a portion of the rent, and the individual, from their means, their income, their source of income, pay 30% of their income. They're subletting.
Okay.
In a rent-stabilized building.
So if there is a need for maintenance, whatever, I have to talk to the agency.
You have to go through 3 persons. You have to go to your managing person, your social worker. You go to the agency, and then the agency contacts the superintendent or the owner. But there is a law at the Division of Houses called Community Renewal now. But New York State protects tenants that live in rent stabilization. If you're not getting service, then you don't get the rent. They can file the appropriate papers to have the rent rolled back or to have the rents frozen. That's not happening. So individuals contend with feces in the hallway, with mice coming into the house, rats, garbage strewn on the street, all right? They cannot say anything. And we, as family members advocating, can only save us so much, because you want that person to not lose their housing, because they cannot go into the housing on the riverfront because they don't meet the income level.
They don't meet the requirements. But you know, Reverend, now that you said about the feces, the urination, the garbage all over the place, I understand that, and I'm sure that none of the landlords would reside in one of those buildings because of those conditions. But at some point, we, as tenants,
the individuals
must also accept responsibility of what they're doing. Because it's very easy to point the finger and blame at that person. But very often, those conditions are created by those who live there. Not all, but often. Because I have been reporting in certain places where they talk about the garbage and the rats, and all of a sudden, as I'm inspecting and filming, I hear a bang, it's somebody throwing the garbage bag from the third or the fourth floor. Okay, what do you expect that will cause? Okay, I have been in buildings recently new, okay, should be in top condition, and you go in the elevator and you see feces inside the elevator. Well, you live here.
Yeah.
Or you come in to visit somebody who lives here. What about we do our part?
There must be accountability, and everyone has to be responsible for their actions. But sometimes I wonder if things come too easy for someone. When I say easy, when you're not really having to go and struggle to make ends meet, then folks tend to not care so much. Now, not everybody went to Home Economics 101. Maybe we should do that now. Maybe young people need to know what home economics is, cleaning up after yourself. We, as renters, we do have a responsibility. You make a mess, it's what you learned in kindergarten. You make a mess, you clean it up. No, it's not all on the landlord, but the two work together. If you see paper on the floor or an empty can or empty bottle, what is it going to cost you to pick it up? Especially if you trip over that bottle. Then you won't sue somebody, but you could have picked it up and prevented an accident. So the renter has a responsibility, I do believe, to maintain your surroundings. And if they don't know, and not everybody knows how to maintain their living. They really don't. That's why some of the agencies go in, and those that have been placed by the agencies, and they check to see how they're maintaining. And if they're not, then they have to address that. But overall, it's a team. It's teamwork.
Yeah. So both sides
teamwork.
need to understand what their responsibilities are.
You got to work together.
Now, Reverend, if you could have a conversation with our mayor, or housing department, or somebody in the county level that had the power to move things in the right direction, what would you suggest? What would you recommend? What do you think would you say the problem is, and how would because sometimes it's easy to talk about the problem. We can always go around, look and say, oh, homeless, that's a problem. Or school, it's a problem. But sometimes what's lacking is the solution for those problems. What is the solution? What do you think is the solution for those problems?
For individuals, as we are talking about, that have been diagnosed, I believe that we really need to have specific housing for those individuals. And in that housing, it needs to be equipped with social workers around the clock. We need to have contact with the crisis unit in the event that there is an episode. And it needs to not be shoved on in a boondock somewhere, because people have they want to put a stigma. If you put individuals in a community and teach them how to be a part of the community, our city, our county, our state can do this. We have one location that I know of in Yonkers, transitional housing, but we need permanent housing for individuals that need assistance. in living on their own. And that creates a sense of pride. Whenever you say, oh, this is your place, now take care of it. But there are conditions. You must maintain your health requirements, like taking your medication, going to your doctors, keeping your appointments with your, different practitioners. And that would resolve a lot of issues that we see here in Yonkers if our city, county, and state just said, you know what, we're allowing all of this new development, but we forgot about a group of people that deserve to be in decent housing, not somewhere that the lock is off the door and it's transient, it's drug activity. That's not safe, especially for single females or an older person. And also the buildings need to be built so that it accommodates physical disabilities. Accessibility. We don't have that.
But the new law, I think they all must have it, correct?
They must have it, but the individuals we're talking about are not in those buildings. And I do understand, as it was explained to me, we don't want to put our clients, some clients, in newer buildings where they destroy.
But
Okay.
Unfortunately,
it happens. It happens. But does that mean that everyone goes into a building that is falling apart too? No. Because what is happening, a lot of these older buildings now are LLCs, and they're just waiting for the day that new development comes and says, I'll buy your building. Mm-hmm. And then we've got this group of people that, again, have no place to go. So I say to our Mike Spano, I say to the county exec, and I say to our governor, think about, do something. It's enough talking now. It's time that we developed living spaces for people that cannot do it on their own. I'm not saying a prison or a jail or somebody over them 24/7, but they need to have the proper supervision, but they also need to have somewhere decent.
Well said, Reverend. Guys, thank you for watching. But there is something that I must bring up, especially in this time of the year. Mental illness, stress.
Yes.
Every year around this time, Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, we see a lot of people taking their own lives. Keep in mind, people, there is agencies that are trained and specialized in talking to you. Sometimes with those that need, sometimes you might think there is no other way, but there might be another way, okay? Tomorrow, 12 o'clock, we're gonna have Councilwoman Diana here to address mental illness and programs that can help those who are suffering. We're going to give you the number who you should call, resources that are available to you. I understand that sometimes the hardest part is one accepting that we have a problem.
Yes.
Okay. So, but mental illness, as the Reverend said, it's a medical issue like any other. You shouldn't be embarrassed of it. You shouldn't be ashamed of it. Seek treatment. Sometimes talking to a good friend, okay, can bring up the solution without you maybe telling exactly what the problem is.
Or
Okay.
just being compassionate.
Exactly.
Just showing some kindness.
Exactly. Just showing some kindness. Sometimes we don't know the impact of it.
No.
Reverend, it was a pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
It was a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. Okay. When you call me, actually the other day when you reached out, I said, Reverend? Okay. And I'm thinking you on the other side.
Is she back?
Yeah, but Reverend is back. So Reverend, tell us a little bit about the other side.
Oh, let me tell you. I years ago, I had this vision. Now people question my vision, but they real. And I saw myself going in a plane to green pastures. And I was like, well, what is this? This is back in the 80s. And I said, okay. So fast forward, 2017, I met my now spouse, who was from the other side, being Norway, Scandinavia.
Norway.
And we got married, and now I'm living part-time in Norway, part-time in New York. I come back to New York to see my family, but it's like, okay, when do I leave now? Okay, because this is home. I'm a citizen born in North Carolina, you know, but there's a different lifestyle.
Society is different.
Let me tell you something. Socialized democracy works. We don't need to be afraid of it. In our community, we have a certain amount of people that immigrate into to keep the balance, and I've not experienced so much peace than what I have there. Yes, I'm brown skinned
Ain't nothing you can do to change that.
That's it. You know, and folks look like your complexion, my complexion, darker complexion, but they are all doing their best to try to live together. Does Norway have problems? Yes, but it's how you approach those problems that I can say to people, come on over, see for yourself. Airfare ain't that much. $500-600 round trip. We'll give you somewhere to stay. No, some people. But it is expensive. But the quality of life, I appreciate it because after COVID, I could breathe. The air quality is great. The mountains are beautiful. The fjords. It is one of the most beautiful places, and I've traveled extensively. It is one of the most beautiful places to visit. Come on over. We got a spare bedroom. Honestly, we do.
I might take you up on that one.
It's okay. Come on, bring your camera and bring back the videos, and you can show folks. There is another life.
Well,
beyond what we're dealing with.
Reverend, I love to travel. Maybe summertime you will see me in Norway.
That's the best time. Spring and summer and fall. If you like snow, you can come on.
No,
okay.
Snow, I like snow, but as long as I'm inside of a movie theater that I'm watching it there.
You know what I call it? Peaceful living.
That's it. Well, guys, thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend, for being
you.
here. Guys, as I always say, actions, not words. And
Amen.
please, please, this is the type of interview that we would love that you would share. It's an informational type of interview. This is nothing that was scripted. The Reverend had no idea what questions, where the conversation would take us. We're not pointing fingers at no one. We're not blaming no one. We're just blaming all of us because this is a society. Okay, so we all can work together to make this place a better place for all of us.
Holding ourselves accountable.
Exactly. So thank you for watching, guys. Don't forget, tune in tomorrow at 12 o'clock for our interview with Diana, like Rihanna, councilwoman. We're going to talk about mental illness programs and how we can help. And until then, please share this interview. Reach out and talk to someone. Thank you for watching.